Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Meet Your ACS Greater Houston Section Leader, Session 2. Today, we have a very special guest with us, Kevin Ramirez. Kevin serves as the Secretary of ACS Greater Houston Section, and he has been serving as the Younger Chemists Committee Chair since last year. Kevin has undertaken several wonderful projects and implemented them successfully to benefit the younger chemists present in the local section. Thank you for joining us today, Kevin.
Thank you for having me.
Can you provide a brief overview of your journey from school to workforce, Kevin?
Yeah, so my journey from the workforce into the workforce is actually a pretty funny story, I think. So I ended up taking 5 years in undergrad. And in my fifth year of undergrad, which I lovingly refer to as my victory lap, um, our chemistry faculty hosted Bill Carroll, I believe, to give a seminar on campus. And at that event, I was able to meet the then YCC chair, Dr. Catherine Failer, at that seminar. And then we ended up collaborating on a couple other events later on after we had met. So, we went through the year and then graduation time rolled around. We had been working on different events throughout that time. And when I told her I was getting ready to graduate, she had mentioned that she was looking for a technician, suggested I apply. And I did, and I got an interview, and eventually she offered me a job. So that's kind of how I fell into fell into the workforce.
That's very interesting, Kevin. Right when you were in undergrad, you got to meet Dr. Bill Carroll, who also served as the past president of American Chemical Society. And even I got to meet Dr. Carroll over here at Greater Houston Section because he had served as a career consultant for several of our events. That must have been a great experience and very motivating to interact with him. And you also landed in your first industry job through networking by meeting Catherine, who also served as the past chair of the Greater Houston section by attending the YCC events. That's wonderful. So networking at the YCC event helped you land in your first job. That's awesome. So after you were working for a while, what motivated you to go back to school after working for a few years? And it's interesting on how you also switched disciplines from synthetic chemistry to chemical engineering and computer science. Can you share your thoughts with us?
Yeah, so once I started working, I always knew I wanted to go back to school. When I kind of chose to go back, I had been working already in the industry for about 3 years. I kind of chose that time just because the timing felt right to me. And to be honest with you, it was a really tough decision to kind of give up my paycheck and go back to school. But, looking back on it, I really don't regret my decision for, wanting to go back. My decision to switch disciplines, however, was really based on my experience in the industry thus far. So in my job as a research technician with Catherine, I was making novelist catalyst scaffolds in the lab. But I always wondered what happened to those catalysts once they kind of left me. So I wasn't doing like any of the testing on them or anything like that. And that curiosity, just kind of wondering what happened to my catalyst after I handed them off, really pushed me into looking into chemical engineering so I could follow the catalyst throughout its life cycle, from building blocks to commercialization if it were to make it to that point. I'm also currently pursuing a degree in computer science right now, but for me that was kind of more of an afterthought. So when I had been doing my chemical engineering education, I realized that a lot of the programs or a lot of the methodologies were like very programming heavy. So kind of in my mind, I was just thinking, if I can add computer science onto that, it'll make me a more well-rounded candidate. Just because I can handle the rigors of lab work with my chemistry background. I can handle a manufacturing floor with my chemical engineering background, and I could program process controls in various languages with my computer science background. Um, that's kind of how I'm like imagining in my mind how they all kind of work in tandem.
Wow. It looks like you have a diverse interest, Kevin, as you said, from synthetic chemistry, chemical engineering, and computer science. So, what are your future plans now? How do you plan to put that into practice?
So currently, well, let me start at the beginning. Um, I always knew I wanted a PhD. Um, in what field, I'm not sure, because right now I kind of straddle two fields
Mhm.
with chemistry and chemical engineering. I'm currently in the process, or I will currently begin the process of applying to chemistry and chemical engineering programs,
Mhm.
but I'm not really sure which I'm going to get into. But I'm hoping for the best. Um, but ultimately, I would like to see myself doing some kind of research. Um, it's nice that my experiences do straddle different fields, so it offers me, I feel, a greater kind of understanding of like the interworkings of, you know, how chemistry, um, connects itself into chemical engineering and vice versa.
Mhm. So, since you mentioned that you're considering grad school now and still debating like what to focus on, how do you think ACS can help in terms of networking? Did you, so far, based on the events that you have attended, did you get a chance to meet other chemists or chemical engineers in the local section? Do you think being an ACS member, uh, you have benefited in terms of networking and getting a better idea of putting your thoughts together?
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, just being on the ACS-GHS board alone exposes me to a number of PhD professionals in various industries. You know, and this is just thinking about the board, I've been exposed to PhDs in academia, pharmaceuticals, chemicals, oil and gas, and so many other industries. Um, it's just thinking about it, it's like we have a very professionally diverse board, running the ACS-GHS.
Mhm.
Um, but also to your other question, especially on my chemical engineering side, I attended an ACS-GHS event that was held back in July. And it was a networking event, and I was able to network with another chemical engineer that was also attending the event as well. So we got to talk and, network and see kind of what each other was up to and things like that. So there's plenty of exposure, I feel,
Mhm.
within all aspects of the ACS-GHS. Um, the local section even has different subcommittees that it's involved with. The one that comes to mind is the Engineering Council of Houston. Um, and like how I kind of found out about it was when I was being helped along in my first couple of months after being elected in as secretary. Um, Dr. Mamie Moy, who is one of our current counselors,
Mhm.
was helping me along and really kind of getting me familiarized with the duties and the responsibilities that kind of came with my elected position. And she asked me honestly that exact same question. And, in doing that, she really pointed out to me that the Engineering Council of Houston, because she recognized that I had a background in chemistry and a background in chemical engineering, and she was mentioning, it would be wise of me to get involved with that organization and start making those connections.
Mhm.
Um, but also, too, on the engineering side, just personally, I'm also a member of the American Institute of Chemical Engineers. Which also offers me a network that I could tap into.
Mhm.
Um, in my mind, I would like to see our two organizations because AICHE does have a chapter in Houston
Mhm.
that is fairly large, just like the ACS-GHS is, just by the nature of the Houston industry.
Mhm.
So I would like to see us work together and kind of put together our synergies for the benefit of our members. Um, but kind of to bring it back, I definitely feel like being in the ACS-GHS alone, and then especially being a board member, allows me to leverage the massive network that we have here. Um, and with that, I mean, just thinking about it, I feel like even considering the network alone, I have so many people I could talk to help, formulate where I think I should go in my future plans.
That's that's great, Kevin. It's true. You brought a very good point up that Greater Houston section has very qualified leaders, I can say, and they come with a very diverse background, as you have said, oil and gas, pharmaceuticals, academia, and as well as chemists from medical center. So we
Mhm.
are all in it together. And you also had mentioned that once you started in the secretary position, you did receive guidance and mentorship from our counselor, Amy Moy. That's been the experience. So it's not like you're put in a position and asked to take over. You are given proper guidance, and it has a structure on how to organize and how to plan events and so on. So glad that you had great mentorship in addition to the vast networking opportunities by being a board member and also organizing several wonderful events. So, Kevin, tell us a little bit more about your journey with the Greater Houston section. I know you got involved through YCC, but can you please elaborate more on it?
Yeah, so definitely my first encounter with the ACS-GHS was during my undergrad years
Mm-hmm.
when I was able to collaborate with Catherine when she was the YCC chair.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of during that time, and especially after once I started working in the industry, I would consider myself more of an active attendee in the ACS-GHS. Catherine was very involved with the local section.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I would make it a point to attend a lot of um, the meetings and the events, honestly, that were being held. One, so I could meet other professionals within my field. Being a fresh graduate, it really helped me to kind of meet more tenured chemists and kind of learn from their experiences and get to talk to them and see, the amazing things that they're doing in the field that I just stepped into.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but mostly just to hang out with other chemists because you know I didn't have very many chemist friends back in the day, so I've always found that really exciting to do. um, and then eventually, I moved on and I left for graduate school in a different state, and then when I returned post-graduate school back to Houston,
Mm-hmm.
um, Catherine again, was really my saving grace on this one. She invited me to attend the ACS-GHS annual career fair and post-career fair events
Mm-hmm.
that the ACS-GHS holds all the time, and it's a really great event. Oh my gosh. Um, so over the course of the evening, I was able to meet with a whole bunch of board members, and especially at the post career fair event, it was a very relaxed setting. So I just got to meet them and talk to them and get to know more about the organization.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that happened maybe in August, if I remember correctly. And then soon we stepped into October, and Catherine tapped me and she was like, "Hey, do you want to run for director on the ACS-GHS board?" And I was happy to do it because, you know, I had benefited for so long from the ACS-GHS, and I saw this as my opportunity to finally give back to the organization that had helped me in my professional career, and personal development as a chemist over so many years.
That's really wonderful, Kevin. I'm glad that you took an opportunity to step in into the board through director position again through mentorship from Catherine in this case. But it's been wonderful so many years. So, what position do you currently serve on the board?
So currently, I serve as the chapter secretary,
Mm-hmm.
and I am this in my second year serving as the Younger Chemist Committee chairperson.
Okay. So, to be a younger chemist committee member, be it at the local section level or the national level, is there any criteria a person has to meet, or would you encourage people to join the GHS and participate in YCC events? What do you think?
So officially, A
Mm-hmm.
YCC member can be any ACS member under the age of 35.
Mm-hmm.
Unofficially, and this is just for me, I would encourage all chemists, chemical engineers, technical professionals to attend, the ACS-GHS events and especially the YCC events.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's my personal feeling that, we younger chemists stand to learn a great deal from our more experienced colleagues. That's exactly what I did when I first stepped onto the chemistry field. And it's my personal hope as YCC chairperson that in hosting more informal laid back events, I am able to facilitate others having the ability to make those connections with our colleagues on a deeper level. Um, it's just formal events feel really stiff to me. So I feel like if it's in a relaxed setting, it's so much easier to talk to somebody and go up to a perfect stranger and say, "Hey, what do you do?" You know?
Yep.
But definitely, I would encourage anyone to join the GHS and participate in our events, honestly. I've always found it personally rewarding to be a part of something bigger than myself. Um, and I really can't tell you how much I enjoy hanging out with other chemists. I find it so exciting to this day, just to meet other people who are so passionate about the field that I am passionate in. And it's so exciting to me when we get to talk about like ridiculously, I guess, complicated stuff, just like a normal conversation. I find that so exciting. It's great. I love it.
That's great, Kevin. That you do bring up a good point. Again, we meet like-minded people, especially when you go to ACS GHS events. When I say like-minded, it doesn't mean okay they'll be discussing only about chemistry. No, we have several conversations. We do organize events at the brewery. So if you're interested in drinking, come join us. And
Mhm.
yes, you can learn a little bit about chemistry too in the same time. But you're right, having a chance to meet and learn from peers in the field, we get to learn from their experience and as well as improve ourselves and our knowledge in the field. So it's a great opportunity to attend casual events, especially, which are more encouraging. That's a great advice. So, what would you tell to students or postdocs who are interested in starting or participating in ACS student groups at a university? How do you think, as YCC chair, and since you serve also on the Greater Houston section board, how can we help the other students in the local section?
So my advice would be to participate definitely in any of the ACS student groups at your college or university.
Mhm.
If your college or university doesn't have what, I would encourage you then to begin that student group. Um, just considering my experience alone with the ACS, you know, well, my experience with the ACS student groups, and then especially with local section YCC leaders, you know, in me participating, it opened so many doors and it even landed me a job. And especially now as a YCC chairperson, I am in the wonderful position that I get to assist student groups with resources and programming.
Mhm.
You know, so the main goal of the YCC is to advocate and provide resources to younger chemists.
Mhm.
So in my role as YCC chairperson, I really aim to provide those things for them. So towards that end, specifically for the ACS-GHS, I'm allowed an ample budget to help local chapters offset costs through collaboration.
Mhm.
I'm able to leverage the local sections networks to meet student chapter needs. Um, we can co-host events together that serve the needs of your chapter.
Mhm.
Um, and especially now, kind of, and this is again just in my personal experience, having been on both sides of the aisle as a student group leader and now as a YCC chairperson, um, I can honestly tell you in full confidence, I did not utilize the local section and especially the YCC um, to the extent that I should have in those days. So definitely, if there's any students or postdocs out there that are kind of like on the fence of they should contact their local section or not, I say do it. There's so many good people out there that you can have a spectacular event. Yeah.
That's wonderful, Kevin. The practical application that you had mentioned, how you were ignorant of the resources that the local section provides to the younger
Mm-hmm.
chemists who are present in the local section. Now that you're aware of all those resources, you want to bring that to people's knowledge and so that they can benefit from them. That's very noble. And you're working towards that goal. That's very admirable, Kevin. And to our viewers, I also want to add, Kevin is not just our serious chemist per se. If you go to the Buffalo Bayou on weekend morning, you can see him running over there. That's our fun chemist, Kevin. Thank you, Kevin, for your time and good luck in your future endeavors.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
A pleasure.